everybody, we made it!
We made it! Oh.
Perfectly on time for Dr. Dane here time, I must say. What's that clearing about being the creator of time?
Yeah. What have you made so vital, valuable, and real about something about limiting your perception of time that keeps you from creating what is time? So I'm on time. I don't know about y'all. And we really apologize for being late, but I was trying to get into StreamYard to broadcast, but I couldn't find the code. So I had to go to my phone and there were 4 of them. I was like, oh, so my computer is just being my computer. So there you go. You were going to do an introduction. Yeah.
I am super excited to be chatting today with you, as I always am, but about this topic of choice. Now, recently, I'd like to read something if that's okay, because I got to hear you riff on choice the other day. And you said choice is the most misunderstood capacity that we have. When used correctly, it functions as a superpower.
Yes.
Tell me about my superpower that I'm not using.
Tell me about my hidden superpower. Well, it's really funny because people look at, I don't know, Superman or Wonder Woman or Superman shagging Wonder Woman or Wonder Woman shagging Superman. Oh, maybe that's just me. Anyway, especially, I'm not going to go down that road. But we look at these, the Flash. We look at all these superheroes, quote unquote. We're like, oh my God, they're so super. And I'm not. Except in actuality, we have this superpower called choice, which allows us to determine how we respond to any situation. It allows us to change anything we want to change. And it's something that is one of the most misunderstood capacities that we have, and all of us have it. And so if we look at it, like everybody watching, your life that you have right now is a sum total of all the choices you made up until this point. Just ponder that for a moment, okay? The good, the bad, and the ugly. And by the way, hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. Nice to see you all posting. And so it's the sum total of the choices that you've made up until now. And just that one sentence, if I didn't say anything else and we just got off and people pondered that all day long, it would be like, wait a minute. So the good is something you chose. The bad and ugly is something that you chose. The phenomenal and the magical and the miraculous, those are all things that you chose. But here's the thing that confuses us the most, is we believe that choice is cognitive. We believe that choice is, I am going to put my hand in front of the camera now, therefore I am choosing, and we sound like Marvin the Martian when we're doing it. Oh, how I hate Earthlings. They block my view of Venus, And so we have this weird friggin' idea of what choice is that it isn't. So one of the questions I like to ask, and we're going to be using something called the clearing statement, okay? And you can go to theclearingstatement.com. Hold on. Is that in banners? Is it? Hold on. Check it out. I'm going to try something.
Look at you!
Hello. Look. Oh, my goodness. I feel like Timmy, the retarded boy, who's like, I did it. Oh, okay. And I choose to laugh at myself a lot because that's one of the choices I really like personally, okay? But so you can go to theclearingstatement.com because I don't just want to have a conversation about this. I want to help you change some stuff. One of the things I love about the tools of Access Consciousness is they show you that you can change things right now. We don't have to wait to be able to change. Okay, I think everybody saw that, theclearingstatement.com. Okay. Or it could be what WTF is theclearingstatement.com. You can go there. It's 20 minutes. I'm not going to bother going through it. But one of the questions I would like to ask everybody is, what have you decided and defined that choice is that it isn't? Everything that is times a godzillion. And a godzillion is a number so big, only God knows. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here we are. And what I do is I tap into the energy of all the people watching and the ones that will watch, actually. And there's a sense of, you can tell when something is a big thing because it feels like really crunchy. It's like walking through like bricks and stuff. And you're like, wah! Okay. So, and what have you decided choice isn't that it actually is? because most of your choices are not cognitive, which means they don't ever register up here. They're things that you go, oh yeah, that. So what if you decided choice isn't that it actually is? Everything that is times a gazillion. We destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Whoa, and while we're asking, and we could run that probably 100 more times. I'm not going to, but anybody who truly desires to get more choice, if you just asked yourself those questions and do what I do, what if I decided choice isn't that it actually is? Destroy and uncreate, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds, or destroy and uncreate and pock and pod, which is the short form. And what if I decided choice is that it isn't? Everything that is, destroy and uncreate it, pock and pod. If you just did that 20 or 30 times today, you're going to start noticing that things start to show up differently for you. And this is what excites me so much about having this conversation is people's lives actually showing up differently. Imagine waking up tomorrow and loving being alive. And not from that place that a lot of people do. Are like, I love my life because I'm supposed to. I'm doing, I'm eating, I'm drinking only water and lemon juice. So I'm enjoying my life because I'm suffering enough to enjoy my life. And that's fine. If you want to do a master cleanse, I totally support it when it's time to choose that. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. It's not about the, lemon juice and water. It's about people pretending. What if you didn't have to pretend to love your life anymore? Getting this superpower of choice is one of the greatest ways of actually getting there. So everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, to know, to receive the possibility of actually enjoying your life and getting to have the freedom to have that choice, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Thank you, Kimmy. Kind enough to write those down so everybody can run them if you want to. And guess what? Whether you run them or not is your choice. See what it did there? Wasn't that awesome? Okay, so this idea of what choice is, see, you got to realize that we started making choices from the time we came into this body. Okay, from the time we were actually conceived, not even born. Okay, and so every element in the universe has consciousness. Every cell, like Einstein said, every molecule in the universe has consciousness. And all of those are actually choosing. But wait a minute, how are they choosing? Wait, like it's not like every molecule has a mind, right? But every molecule has choice. And wouldn't it be interesting if the molecules that went into your, your desk or your chair chose, hey, I'm going to be a desk. You know what I mean? I know that's a little weird, but the reason I'm bringing that up is because I want to really emphasize the point that choice is not, the cognitive choice is not the only choice you have. Cognitive choice is a choice, but it's the smallest percentage of choice. It's like 0.001% of our choices. Most of the other choices are the energetic choices that we make. And we've been making choices ever since we were conceived, which means that a lot of the choices that we made that formed our personality, who we think we are. By the way, your personality is who you think you are. It's not who you actually are, because who you actually are is your being. Okay. But so many of the choices that we made for who we were going to be, we made before we could even talk. And you're like, what? Well, how does that work? Well, mommy and daddy are stressed about money and stressed about each other and stressed about life. And mommy and daddy are used to suffering or whatever. So what do? You're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be like mommy and daddy. That's the easiest. They're the most energetically coherent, consistent thing in your life. So you just sort of go along on that path. And so you get to this point in your life where you're like, why does my life look the way it does? Somebody help. Well, if you recognize that those were choices that you made that created it, then the gift is you have the choice to uncreate it. You have the choice to choose something different. And when I first came to Access 20 years ago, I was suffering. I literally, prior to Access, was going to end my life. And I had a bar session and was filled with this sense of gratitude for being alive. I always look up because it's always like this, oh my God, universe, really? And I will never forget. Every time I think about it, I get filled with this gratitude and tears, because I not only not thought that was possible, I knew it wasn't possible. Well, I guess that wasn't my knowing. That was based on a lot of the choices that I had made that got me there. And I didn't realize that there was this thing called choice. And so we've said the word choice a billion times already, but it's like when Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, he said to me, you have choice. And I was like, I do? Then why does my life look like such crap? And he went, well, because of the choices you made. And I was like, what? And then I went into this long spiral of judgment of myself for a while. And he let me sit with that for a few minutes. And then he went, tell me something miraculous that you've chosen. I'm like, oh, well, I went to chiropractic school. Even though it was right after my grandfather died and I didn't have the money, I got student loans and I was able to work my way through it. And I, blah, blah. And he went, cool. You chose that too. And I went, oh my God, seriously? I was like, okay. And so what I'd like, and so let me tell a little more and then ask a question of everybody, which was what that did for me is I was like, oh my God. So it's the fact that I've been choosing way less of the magic for some reason that is creating way less of the magic. And he went, yeah. He's like, if you were willing to have all the magic and have your life show up with ease, who would you lose? What would change? And I went, oh my God, my family. I'm like, if my life were total ease, my family would leave. They would abandon me. And he's like, well, would you be willing to have that ease even if they abandoned you? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, that's a point of view you may want to change. But here's the beauty of this, having access to the clearing statement, having access to this way of looking at things, we can actually change that stuff. So whatever it is that's limiting you from choosing what you would like to, whether it's an obligation to somebody, or I don't want to be this different, or I feel so weird, I feel like I shouldn't be succeeding and having an easy time during Corona because the whole world looks like it's suffering, whatever that is, we can change that when you choose to have something different. But it's not until you choose to have something different that you can change it. But if you're not willing to choose to have something different, you can change that. So you're willing to choose to have something different. Oh my God.
Can you talk about, because I can hear everybody's head spinning, and then about the right and wrong, the good and bad, trying to put choice into those conclusionary realities, where what I heard you say about what you acknowledged there with Gary was that every choice you made actually brought you to that bar session. All the ones that were good, bad, like judgeable, like the things that didn't go right, the things that went excellent, led you to exactly where you required to be. So then how could any of them be wrong and bad?
Wrong.
So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know I can read the chat. There's a lot of so I must have made all bad choices. They must all be bad.
Exactly. And I have not found one person. I have worked with hundreds of thousands of people at this point. I have not found one person that has chosen only bad and wrong. Not one. And I've worked with a lot of people. So this idea that there's good choice and bad choice, what we need to realize is no, there's just choice. And choice creates. Your choice creates an outcome. What is the outcome you're creating? Well, then look at what are the choices that you're making. And for a lot of people, it might be easier to look at what are the thoughts I'm thinking, because the thoughts that you're thinking lead to the choices that you're choosing. What? So let me ask this. Okay. So one of the things I would suggest that everybody do is write down a list of the top 10 things list of 10 things you've chosen that were miraculous or that showed up way easier than you thought they would. And whatever they are, without filtering, because it's not that important what they are. It's just that you chose that, and recognize I chose this. And now write down 10 of the top crappiest things that have ever occurred in your life and acknowledge that you chose that. And then look at the crappy things and go, what was my motivation for choosing this? Like, what was the two things? What space did I choose it from? Like, why, basically. I'm not a big fan of that word, though, because it puts people in circles. But what was the space from which I chose this? And what was the justification for choosing this? Like, basically, why did I choose this? And also, what was the gift of choosing this? Because within every limitation we choose, there's a magical possibility underneath it if we won't judge it as wrong. Okay? Within every limitation you choose, there's a magical possibility underneath it if you won't judge it as wrong. And then look at the miraculous choices and go, wow. And a lot of times for the miraculous choices, it'll be something we're like, oh, I would really like that. And then you go live your life. What if choice is that simple? What if choice is actually, what if what we got to start with is just the recognition that we have choice? And then what choice really is, which is not, I'm going to do this now, but it's like, oh, I'll have that. Oh, I'll have that. Oh, I'll have that. And what would it take for it to show up miraculously? What if that's a choice too? And we have this capacity to think things into existence, but we have thinking twisted into the idea that our purpose for thinking is to solve every problem in the way of something, and then it will show up. Except your capacity is to get the thought of something you would like and ask for it, and let the universe, this benevolent universe, Einstein said every molecule has consciousness. Oh, but guess what? He also proved that not only do they have consciousness, but that their consciousness is interconnected, which means you and your body and your life and everything in your house and everything is all connected, which means that when you ask for something, especially something that will make the world greater, and we get high and mighty about that. I must do something that makes the world greater if we're in this realm at all. Oh my God, we have 1,111 people on. Oh no, until 11:19.
Make a wish.
Make a wish. I did. I wish for more happy people. It's usually my wish. Oh, and less stupid people. Okay, yeah. More happy people, less stupid people. Yeah, I'm crafting the planet with my mind right now. Mark my words, it's gonna happen. So where was I? Oh, darn, I got distracted by myself. So our capacity is to have a thought of something and ask for it. And then that idea that every molecule in the universe is connected with consciousness, it means the universe goes to work on your behalf. And the idea of us needing to choose something that's good to change the world, your happiness changes the world.
Dane, you just recently said in the Being You class, I think it was, the way to reclaim happiness is to get to choice.
Yeah.
And that was like a...
Yeah.
You want to riff on that a little bit?
Yeah, because so if we look at that for a moment, okay, the way to reclaim our happiness, and why do I say reclaim? Because happiness, or if we call it joy, because a lot of people have points of view about what happiness is, okay, but if we put them as synonymous, the way to reclaim our joy, because joy is the natural space of our being. Like, do you ever see a little kid that's not fundamentally happy? And the only time they seem less than happy is when they need to poop, they need to eat, or they need to be cuddled. I mean, we're the same way. I mean, really, could you imagine if the only time you weren't happy is when you needed to poop, but you could still be happy because you're like, oh my God, this is going to feel so good. Oh, wow, that was awesome. So you can be happy while you're pooping. Okay, anyway, maybe I shouldn't have gone down that road. I don't know. I feel like a big 6-year-old. Let's make poo jokes. Anyway, by the way, I do have a question, given that it is just after Easter. Who came up with the bright idea that rabbits should poo chocolate eggs and kids should eat them? This I do not understand, okay? Plus, I'm just saying, I'm just making a choice to go down that road for a moment, okay? Because I don't get it. But since we were having this conversation, I figured I would go there. Plus, if you've ever seen the size of an actual egg and a rabbit's butt, I'm just saying that, okay, physiologically, there's some messed up stuff going on there. Okay, that's what I'm saying. There, I said it. Okay, we can move on from this conversation now. Okay, so what if you, what if you were fundamentally happy like a baby, and you could, and so I look at that. And I also look at the birds and all the animals. They don't do unhappy. The only unhappy animals I've ever seen are when they're trying to take on the unhappiness of their owners. And why do people do unhappy? Because everybody else is doing it. It's like unhappy is the new black. Actually, it's the old black. And it's like, and there's so many reasons to fight and so many things to fight. Personally, I don't fight. I don't fight against. I don't fight for. The only thing I will fight for is possibilities and more happiness. So reclaiming our choice then is a way to get, that is the way to reclaiming our joy, reclaiming our happiness is done from actually having access to our choice again. Why? Because if you're not happy with choice, you can choose something that will change it. And it may not change it in that moment. That doesn't mean your choice didn't work. It just means that you have points of view about reality that need to melt a little bit so you can have that space of being fundamentally happy or fundamentally joyful. And so what choice gives us is it's like imagine you could be in any situation in the world, any situation that's ever occurred in your life and be totally present and know that you could choose at the very least to still have you and not lose you. That's a choice. To not go away during the holidays when you're with your family, for example, that's a choice. To be confronted with the pandemic and all the control stuff and all the trauma and drama and all that stuff and go, okay, well, I have the choice to be happy anyway. What's that going to take? This is why I say it's fundamental to reclaiming our joy and reclaiming our happidness is getting to choice again and recognizing that we have it. And here's the other thing is a lot of people have this idea. Well, a lot of people have a lot of ideas about choice and most of them are unacknowledged. But a lot of people have the idea that then I will choose against other people. The people that choose against other people don't truly believe they have choice. They're not functioning from, I have any choice in the world. Because if you had any choice in the world, why would you be mean to other people? Oh, by the way, a lot of you have been mean to other people. Well, yeah. And guess what? What if you could choose to acknowledge that and didn't make yourself wrong for it? Because the other thing that is absolutely essential, if we're going to get to the awareness that we have choice, is to get to the awareness, the willingness to look and see that everything we have ever experienced in this lifetime has been in some part related to our choice. Meaning, so there's a level of vulnerability required. And what is vulnerability? We're told that it's weakness, but it's actually ultimate power, which is funny because there's so many things in this reality where you're told that's bad, that's wrong. That's because it would make you too powerful. Same thing with vulnerability. If we truly had vulnerability, what occurs is you can be present in any situation and you can look at yourself, warts and all, without having to hide any of it from you. Doesn't mean you have to tell anybody else. But so, which is why I brought up that thing of look at 10 things that you've chosen that have been crap, that have worked out. Like, it might have been where you were mad or yelled at somebody or something. It might have been where you chose to get into a relationship that just sucked all the way through or was good and then sucked for years and you stayed there. Well, what if you could have the kindness for you that you would have for your best friend or somebody you truly cared about? What if you could have the no judgment for you that you would give to another? And so from that space, what if you could look and go, okay, yeah, I chose that. And you know what? There was probably a damn good reason in my mind why I chose it. Or I was reacting because I haven't chosen to get out of reaction. Cool, it made me aware that I react. Or I was just choosing to be an asshole in that moment. And one of the greatest gifts we can have is the recognition that sometimes we just like to be an asshole. And what if that's not wrong? Because if you can no longer have it as wrong, then you don't have to separate from it. And then you can actually look at it and change those things you want to change those parts that you want to change. But it all comes from the awareness that we chose it and not hiding from that and not trying to, because one of the biggest limitations we have is trying to blame other people and the world and events for the way we choose to show up in the world or the way we choose to respond to a situation. And when we do that, we make ourselves powerless to deal with the situation in front of us, and powerless to change the situation in front of us, and powerless to change us to become greater in that moment. So true choice requires this level of vulnerability and actually leads to a level of vulnerability where you realize, okay, I chose that. And what if you could look at your choice and go, ooh, I chose that. It did not work out so well. Okay. Like us trying to get on StreamYard today. I tried to get on my damn StreamYard and it did not work out well at all. Okay. And what am I going to do? Am I going to, bend, fold, staple, and mutilate myself and twist myself into an unhappy ball and get on here and be like, I was 6 minutes late. So yeah, I'm cranky now. Excuse me? Are you kidding? Why would I do that? Why would I spend any moment of my life not fully living it and not being present? Why would I choose that? Well, we do a lot of times. It's just I've recognized it more. I've looked at more choices that I have made than probably most people. And I've looked at a lot of choices that I made where I screwed things up. And I tell people, I've probably failed at more things and made more bad choices than most people have made choices. Why? Because I'm willing to just show up and make the choice. And if I fuck it up, I fuck it up. I'm actually really good at fucking things up. Okay, just so you know, I'm like, it's almost like a minor specialty. Like if we were in college, I could minor in fucking it up. Okay. I'm that good at it. Okay. And I finally realized it. I used to judge myself for it. And then I stopped judging myself for it. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to fuck it up, I might as well at least have fun. And then I fuck it up a lot less. So by the way, everything that brought up, and wherever I said the word fuck, and you went, oh no, he didn't fucking say fuck. Did he fucking say? He's fucking said fuck. Everything that is, we destroyed and created all plates. Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now look at that for a moment, okay? Because a lot of people have the judgment of the F word, okay? The 4-letter F word. So you could choose to judge it, or you could choose to not judge it. Which is going to make you lighter, which is going to give you more freedom. And that is what this whole conversation is about. What is going to make you lighter? What is going to give you more freedom? And also, what is going to make you a happier person? Because we also choose to be unhappy. And you're like, what? People choose to be unhappy? Yeah, which is something that if we can acknowledge it, because a lot of us would say we'd like to be happy, but are we choosing that which makes us happy? And are we choosing to be happy with what we have? Or are we saying, I will be happy once everything is perfect? Everything that is for all of y'all, and everywhere you're like, one day I will be happy when everything is perfect. My aunt used to say, one day our ship will come in. I looked at her, I'm like, you live in Idaho, ain't no ships ever coming here. So everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy it and create it, please?
We grew up in California. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Right, bad, fun, buck, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
We grew up in California on the coast. That ship never got to us either. So.
True story. Right on the coast, and still, the ship never came in. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
No, if you're on something, go. I
could keep going for so long.
Well, what I see a lot of us get stuck in is the commitment to the choice. And Access talks about 10-second increments of choice that actually gives you the freedom to change your mind. Like there's so many of us who I'm a person of my word. I chose this. I'm going through this battle regardless. I'll see you on the other side of the trauma, drama, the bruising, all of that. And just to like be a good person or whatever that is that locks us up into the commitment of choice. So would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a biggie. So this idea of you have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. So right now, here you are. You're in a city with lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. So you have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. This is the last 10 seconds of your life. What are you going to choose? Okay. Are you going to choose to enjoy it? Are you going to choose to be terrified of death? You're going to choose to be grateful? You're going to choose to, shoot the person next to you that you've been wanting to shoot for the last 20 years, because you're out of here, whatever. Okay, but look at that. What would you choose? Okay, cool. That lifetime is now over. Now, you have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. Your life is going to end in 10 seconds. What do you choose? Okay, that lifetime is over. You have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. What do you choose? And you start to realize just in a few moments of doing that what happens is we get to choose. But a choice should not last longer than 10 seconds. Now, a lot of people on first hearing that are like, you're crazy. What if you want to create a business? Well, let's see. I've co-created a business. It's in 176 countries where we grow roughly 20% a year from this concept. But it doesn't mean, like, for example, we were scheduled for this live and I showed up for the live. Okay. I didn't 10 seconds before go, well, I'm not going to do it because I just don't want to do it. No, what it gives you is the freedom to change a choice that is not expanding your world and to make an even different choice or greater choice if you're making a choice that's expanding your world, but something else would expand it more. It's really friggin' simple, but it actually gives you that awareness that you can change your mind, number one. And number two, every choice is not written in stone. My friend Gary was working with this lady who was married for 16 years and her husband left her and she was distraught and she couldn't understand how he could do such a thing and he was getting nowhere. And it was almost to the end of their session. And usually with Access Tools, we get somewhere from the beginning and it just goes bigger than that. And he was not, I mean, he was asking question after question after question. And finally, he's like, what question can I ask that will actually create freedom here? And so he looks at her and he goes, let me ask you a question. When did you leave the relationship? 6 months before you got married or 6 months after? And she went, oh my God, 6 months before. And he's like, okay, so you knew not to marry this guy 6 months before you got married. She's, oh, now that I look back on it, yes. Why did you go through with it? Well, because the wedding invitations were sent out already and I didn't want to be embarrassed. And so this lady stayed with this choice for 16 and a half years because she didn't want to change her mind and she didn't want to be seen as wrong for not following through on her choice. And here's the interesting part is she knew ahead of time. See, part of the awareness of choice is that we have this thing called knowing, but knowing is like a feather touch on your cheek. So she knew, she got some awareness that made it very clear to her, this is not the guy you want to marry. And she did it anyway. She went, oh, knowing, oh, forget it. He checks all the boxes. My family is happy about this. But if she would have asked one question, and this is a great question to know what to choose, okay? The one question is, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And you go, 5 years? That's a long time. Yeah, because your mind can't compute 5 years. So you have to go with the energy that presents itself, and it presents itself instantly. So if she had looked at, so you go, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if I don't choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if you put yourself in her shoes, and this is a great thing that we can do for ourselves, okay? I'm asking you to put yourself in her shoes so you can get a sense of how this works. But if that lady had asked, what will my life be like in 5 years if I do this? The energy goes like this. And what would my life be like if I don't? The energy goes like this. Just on that awareness alone, if she were willing to follow it, it would have created a totally different outcome for that time period of her life. Well, yeah, but she needed to do that. So is it wrong? No. Did it create more of this than this? Probably. But was that the life she was willing to have? And was that what she needed to do to get to the point where she would never deny her knowing ever again? And know that she knew? Well, apparently, because that's what she chose. So it wasn't wrong, but it may not have created the path that would have been the lightest for her. But if we can, so in this, if we can take choice out of right and wrong and good and bad and recognize choice creates. And so here we are back to our original conversation. Choice creates. Your life you have today is the sum total of the choices that you've made. But we can use this now, having made billions of choices that we were cognitively aware of and a lot that we were not cognitively aware of, to go, okay, well then what would I like my life to be like in the next 5 years? If I could have my life be anything. And here's the way to use choice. By the way, it's what will my life be like, not look like. Because you can't see the future in 5 years, okay? You can only perceive the whispers of energy that show you what it will be like. And it's basically less space or more space based on the question. But right now, if you had somebody who had a magic wand, or you chose to do the access classes, which is like you getting your own magic wand. But let's just look at this for a moment. If you had somebody with a magic wand who could make anything show up as your life, somebody who could truly rend the universe in whatever way you desired, okay? What would you like your life to be like? If you could change it all in the next 5 years, to wake up happy, wake up loving your life, go through your day loving it even more, go to sleep even happier than you woke up, wake up the next day instead of after a happy day where you have a sad day always. Why is that? I don't understand. Instead of that, you wake up and you're as happy as you were yesterday or more. Okay, just ponder that for a moment, the possibility. And of course, what does your mind go to? Well, I don't know how to make that happen. Here's what I suggest you say to your mind. Okay? Another F you very much, because your mind can't figure it out, but the universe can. So that, if you get that, and then you get the sense of the way it would be to have ease with money, the way it would be to like yourself and have people around you that truly adore you and support you and contribute to you. People that have your back, meaning they don't judge you, but they also they will call you on your shit when it's time to be called on your shit, but they support you energetically. doing something that is fun for you to do that changes all the time so you're not bored, doing something that contributes to creating a greater world for all of us and a more sustainable earth, bringing possibilities to people, having family around that you absolutely love and adore, and they love and adore you and don't judge you. Now get the sense of all of that. Get the space that would be, and how friggin' cool would that be? And now just ask for it. You know, and I had somebody ask me recently, it's like, why do you have all these access classes? And I'm like, because there's lots of things that people want to change and it actually works. And I went, yeah, but you have BARS Foundation, you have COP, you have BARS Foundation, you have Choice of Possibilities, you have ESB, Energetic Synthesis of Being, you have Symphony of Possibilities, you have all these. And I'm like, yeah, I said, but the people that do those, it's basically a step-by-step program for them to get conscious. And they went, okay, but why would somebody want consciousness? And I was like, because that's where you no longer create difficulties in your life. That's where things just work as if by ease. And so there was a question on there, how do I know that I can choose this? And I've been having a lot of conversations with people recently about choice, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this, you know, and I'm like, I want to talk about this and at least give people the energy and hopefully, like I said, change some stuff. Even though it's like getting to the point where you truly know you have choice is always an ongoing journey. So you get more and more and more, the more you go on the journey. But there were somebody who'd watched a lot of my YouTube videos, and because I got, I don't know, almost 500 there now. And so they were watching a lot of my YouTube videos and they were like, what do you recommend? They gave me this problem that I was supposed to solve for them. And they said, what do you recommend? As though I could just give them a sentence and solve a lifelong problem, which sometimes actually works, but not as often as I would like, okay? And I said, my recommendation is do BARS and Foundation. And if you like that, and they said, wait, why? I said, because Foundation breaks the foundation of limitation that makes you believe you don't have choice. And I said, I can give you all kinds of tools and stuff, but until you break that friggin' foundation that makes you think everything is thinkable and makes you have to fit into the rules and the box of this reality and only do it that way, you're only going to get the sense that you have choice in certain areas, and then it's going to seem like you're lost it again. I'm like, please, we're rewriting Global Foundation in 2 weeks. Gary and I are rewriting it. People all around the world. And so I'm putting that out there. I want to let people know because it was a frustration in my world for a long time that I couldn't just give people a tool and have them change things. And I realized it's because I would throw the tool at them and it would bump up against the wall that they were living in, because the foundation is the box that we keep ourselves in that makes us believe we don't truly have choice. And the foundation class starts breaking that apart. And some people are terrified. Some people are excited. Most people are eventually excited. They just think they're terrified because fear and excitement are exactly the same. It's just how you identify it, right? And so people start getting choice and then they're like, oh my God. And so after that foundation of limitation is melting away, then we have the Choice of Possibilities class, which is exploring what it's like to truly have choice, to truly have possibilities, which is not something that anybody other than little kids instantly understand. And little kids are like, well, of course, yeah, it should be magic. Yeah, can I have that, Mom? Can I have that? Can I have that? And their parents get so frustrated because they just know they should have it. Well, yeah, you should. I agree. I would, if I were a parent, oh my God, I'd be like, yeah, of course you should have it. And you should have that and that. And here's a few things you haven't thought about that you should have. I need to make more money, child, but I will do it. No problem, because I know I have choice. Okay. But so the Choice of Possibilities is that. And people start to recognize this thing, this superpower, this indescribable concept that is choice. But they start to embody it and get to be it and live it. And then the ESB is Energetic Synthesis of Being, which is about having a platform for your being. So as this foundation of limitation goes away, it creates this platform for your being where you gather all the parts of you that you've given up or let go of or don't have access to anymore. You get out of the judgment of your very being, because most of us have a fundamental judgment of our being, which means we're in fundamental judgment of everything we think, everything we say, everything we are. And this starts to melt that. And people ask how, and I say magically, because it actually works like that. Because you have no idea what happened. You just leave that class after 3 days and you're like, oh my God, I like myself more. Oh my God. And you start to have this platform for your being where any rocket ship you want to take off on or any creation you want to do explodes. And so I wanted to explain that to people because a lot of people don't get, why would you do an access class? And I'm like, that's why you do an access class. And here's the other thing about all of this is you have choice, and you know, and I need to say this again, even though 3 times isn't going to be enough, meaning you know when to do an access class, for example. You knew to get on this Zoom. You know when not to. And don't let anybody ever talk you into doing something you don't know. Don't let anybody guilt you into it. Don't let anybody make you wrong for not doing it. When you know something, friggin' follow that knowing. So everything that doesn't allow you all to know that you know, will you destroy and uncreate all that, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Everything that doesn't allow you to follow that knowing, will you destroy and uncreate all that, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And I love that. Sometimes the change continues for years after. True friggin' story. I'm going to say pretty much all the time from what I've seen. It doesn't give up. It just gets greater over time. And so this idea, this concept of choice is, guys, we've got choices for how we can live and be in our lives on this planet right now. We don't have to medicate. Oh my God, that's great. When you put meditate in a cave together, it becomes medicate. Now I understand. I finally understand why people are doing so many drugs. I finally get it. Meditate in a cave is medicate when you put them together. So I'm going to say, you don't have to medicate. You don't have to meditate in a cave for 20 years and finally get your reward when you die. Because what if you don't die? You as a being, can you actually die? Or do you just go somewhere else or come back and get another body or something like that? What I'm saying is, with recognizing we have choice, one of the choices we have available is to love being alive right now. And yes, everybody has stuff that they want to change. That's part of the brilliance of it. Enjoy that. Be grateful for that, because it means you always desire more. And so everywhere you've bought the idea that there's going to be some place you get to, some space or some perfect thing where all the conditions are aligned. And that is what's required for joy. That's what's required for happiness. And that's what's required in order to truly have choice, where you destroy and create it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And the other part of what goes along with that is, if you've ever had that occur and all the stars seem to align and it was your astrological time or whatever that is, and you manage to get happy, well, because it's based on the perfect storm of circumstances, the perfect alignment of different ingredients in the universe, within about the next 10 seconds, the universe is already changing. The universe is kind of like, if you look up at the sun, well, don't without glasses. Let's say you look at a star. Okay. Look at a close star and you'll notice it goes across the sky really fast, way faster than you ever thought. That's the entire universe. It's always in movement. When our happiness is based on the idea of all of these things aligning, within a few moments, they're going to be moving again. And if our happiness is based on that and perfection and perfect alignment, we can only have it for a few moments. You know, I used to wonder, why can I only be happy for like an hour, like exuberantly happy for an hour, and then maybe like pretty happy, like without a problem for a day. But if I went without a problem for longer than a day, I'd wake up and have manufactured a problem by the next morning, because I didn't realize I was choosing that. I thought it was happening to me. I thought things were taking it away. And I didn't realize that I actually was vested in having that energy that I considered, that was the energy that I grew up with, and having that energy with me continuously, as though that meant I was appropriate, that meant I was not doing wrong stuff, that meant I was connected to my people. That meant I was validating my parents' realities. That meant I was not going beyond my family and going beyond all the people I grew up around. How many of you are holding on to a particular energy, and it's not just one energy, it's like a lot of energies that you sort of feel like an energy, as a way of doing all the things I just talked about and holding on to people and not being too much. Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy and create it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
Dean, is that the, like, when people feel like their back's against the wall, they're created a no choice universe around themselves?
Totally.
Is that what you're talking about? Because what when you get to a point of facilitation or in classes, and sometimes people get into that note, and then Gary or you will just say, what will it take to change this? And Gary, you'll say choice. And then it's like, there'll be this like flat line where they're like, I have to choose something. You can't just, but it's
yeah.
a piece of like, I've already decided I have no choice. So don't tell me I have choice, because then I don't have the right question to ask or the right process to run, or that's going to change it. So can you talk a little about like even waiting for like the one big choice to change it all, or whatever that is?
Oh, that's so big. Most people are like, they think choice is like Lord of the Rings. The one choice to rule them all, the one choice that would truly has the power to change everything. They don't realize that choice is choice. And when there's a really big choice, the groundwork for that is laid by all the little choices that you made. So like right now, if you desire more happiness, just go, I'd like more happiness, please. Dear universe, dear consciousness, please help. Because right now I feel like I don't even know what it is. And then if you did that little exercise that I asked you to go on about your life in 5 years, if you could change anything, then get the sense of that energy, and anything that feels like that energy, do it. Or if you could get a sense of what it would be like if you could magically be happy, or whatever happy is for you, anything that feels like that energy, do it. Because when it feels like that energy, what that actually is your awareness of the energy that will get created if you choose that. And so I want to ask a question of people. If you chose, and a lot of you are like, I'm not even thinking about it, but I want to see if you can use this in a sort of practical way. If you chose to do the foundation and the choice of possibilities and the ESB, for example, or let's just start with foundation. If you would choose to do the foundation, what would your life be like in 5 years? And if you choose not to, what will your life be like in 5 years? And just notice which of those is lighter. Now, some of you are like, I wasn't even thinking about foundation. That's fine. I'm just trying to use this as an example, because one of the things I've noticed is asking about access classes is a great way to get a sense, if you're willing to give up your mind and your point of view, it's a great way to get a sense of what creates lightness and what doesn't. And so if we could start to use that with so in answer to your question, in the willingness, goodness, my ADHD is kicking on big time. So let's do this. So everywhere you've all bought the point of view and decided the point of view that it's only the big choices that will change your life. And so you're holding off on choosing until you get to the right big choice. Everything that is, as though there is such a thing, everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy it and create it, please.
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Whoa! I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is so big for people. And so what it really is this conglomeration of small choices. But one of the ways of getting there is you could ask for every small choice you have, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if I don't, what will my life be like in 5 years? As one example, okay? For like small choices, like, do I go to the movies? Do I go to this restaurant? And it's weird to think about such a small choice. But when we first got this tool, I said to everybody in the class, it was at an intro night in Australia, I'll never forget it. I said to everybody in the class, I'm like, guys, you came up with this new tool. So for every choice bigger than a pack of gum, you want to ask, what will my life be like in 5 years if I choose this? Or what will my life be like if I don't? And just get the sense of it. Is it lighter and more expansive, or heavier and more contractive? And Gary looks over, being Gary's like, I don't know. I'd ask it for a pack of gum too. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know. I could buy the pack of gum, unwrap them all, put all the pieces in my mouth and choke to death. So I'd ask it for the pack of gum too. And I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. And I realized that I had some threshold, for where I would actually take the time to use this tool. But it takes half a second. It's just, okay, if I do this, ooh, okay, not doing that. Okay, I'm going to go for doing that. You know what I mean? But it's so simple. But here's the other thing, is it's our small choices. I'm going to say this again. It's our small choices that set the stage for the big changes. And this is so, okay, so one of the things, let me try to illustrate this by asking people to do a thing, which is write down a few of the things, maybe like 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever it is, things that really bug you, maybe about you or other people, doesn't matter, probably about you. Think 3 to 10 things that you do or don't do that bug you. Or 3 to 10 things, like you can add on that list, like things in your house, like the mess over in the corner or whatever, okay? Because one of the things that I found, and we've been having conversations about this recently, is that it's oftentimes the things that we judge as a small thing that when we address it leads to major change. And it's like, what? Like the example I like to use, because I've just been doing it recently, is I used to always be almost, and it's so funny that we relate today, because I haven't been at all since running this process. And I'll tell you what I did so you guys can use it and get some freedom from this too, okay? But I used to always be late or always at the last moment, like showing up to class 30 seconds before it starts or right on time or something. Had this my whole life. I've been trying to change it my whole life. And finally, I realized that I was kind of making it a small thing, because in comparison to the rest of my life and everything else I enjoy doing and creating and being on lives like this, it was like, okay, it's a small thing. I maybe that, but it was annoying the shit out of me one day. And here's what you want to do, beautiful people. For anything that you think that you hate, for anything you think is a terrible, bad thing or that you hate, you want to ask, what do I love about this? Because there's some secret underlying reward that you get that you don't even recognize. And you can't even put it into words. And the other thing is recognize that all of your limitations, everything that holds your limitation in place and everything that will unlock your limitations is hidden in your insane mind, not your sane mind. If what's limiting you were logical, you would have already figured it out because you've been looking for a very long time. So you want to ask for anything you say you hate, you want to ask, what do I love about this? So I asked, what do I love about always being late? And I didn't get anything. And I went, okay, everything that is, destroy and uncreate it, because it brings up an energy, but I wasn't willing to even confront the energy. Everything that is, destroy and uncreate it, pock and pod. What do I love about always being late? I sort of got a sense of something, but I couldn't identify it at all. I went, everything that is, I destroy and uncreate it, pock and pod. What do I love about always being late? I did it 5 or 6 times. And then I went, what do I love about always being late? Expecting nothing to show up. And I went, oh my God, it gives me power. I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed right now. I'm so embarrassed that I have been using being late as a way of getting power over other people. And so I went, okay. And I got present with it. And I realized situations in my childhood where I felt powerless. And that was the only thing I could do to basically have a sense of I have control of my life. By the way, everything that brought up for all of you, what are you doing that's actually limiting you as a way of trying to have a sense of having control over your life because you don't think you have any or you have very little? Everything that is times a godzillion. And that's a choice. See, it's a choice I was making over and over and over. Everything that is times a godzillion, we just run and create it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Okay. And somebody put in here, what do I love about not enough money? Yep, that's a similar situation. So I asked that several times and it kept unfolding and unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. Next morning, I was on my way to class and I was actually early. And then the next morning, I was not only early, I was waiting for people. And I'm like, this feels so much lighter. This is so nice. So for anything you think you hate, you want to ask, what do I love about this? But here's where the vulnerability comes in. Because to realize that you're getting power from making other people wait and making yourself late, or always being at that last moment, and then also realizing that it was a way to say fuck you to people that were abusive, which is what I had going on, and it was a way of being covertly like this without ever saying it out loud. And then I realized that and this is why I say it's a choice that I made a long time ago as a way of trying to handle a situation or get some power in a situation that I made when I was a little kid that I'm still doing at 29 years old. You see how I just worked that in there?
Makes me 20, so I'm on board. Let's do this.
Totes. It's perfect. And so here I am still making this choice that is not working for me at all, but I made it when I was a little kid. And so that's why I say, if we can have vulnerability and not have to make the choice wrong and not have to try to prove we're right. And if we can ask, what do I hate about that? I mean, what do I love about this for everything I think I hate? We can actually be kind enough to ourselves to realize we're fulfilling some strategy with that. We're using some strategy to fulfill some target that we have. And that's where most of our limitations are from. And so, like the thing about not enough money, before I did bars and foundation, before I did bars and foundation and choice of possibilities, I struggled all the time with money. Something unlocked in those classes where I started allowing myself to stop figuring it out, and I allowed myself to start receiving, which is also what opens up in the bars class. So I'm bringing that up because this is another one of those where I'm like, yeah. And once somebody has had those classes, then I can have a different conversation with them. Until somebody's had those classes, I can only skip along the surface of the foundation of what they are calling reality and that they're holding in place because this must be real because that's the way people do it here. Okay, fine. Once they have the conversation, or once they do the class and that starts busting apart to the extent that they're willing to allow it to, can have a conversation that goes down here and really gets somewhere. And then it can really change even more dynamically. And people ask a lot of times, why do you have the prerequisites for classes? Because we want everybody to be able to go as far as that friggin' class can. And if they've had the class, we look at it for every class we do, and we look at it and go, okay, what is the prereqs for this based on where this class is saying it can go and wants to go? And the people, one time I let somebody who didn't have the prereqs do one of the classes. I let them do a choice of possibilities class. They hadn't done foundation. They were like, oh, I was going to do it and the facilitator was sick. I promise I'll do it afterwards. I'm like, I don't care if you do it afterwards. It's not about the money. It's about you having the change that you require to be able to make this leap, having the platform to make the leap. And this person was annoyed with me the entire class. They didn't get anything I was talking about. And they were mad and angry at me. And as though it was my fault. I said, look, if you do this, it's not going to be easy, especially if you don't go get the basic stuff you need after this. And they didn't want to do it. And I learned my lesson at that point. I'm like, people need these prereqs because what we're talking about in Access is a reality of ease that most people don't get as possible. And you almost have to be tricked into choosing ease, which is really entertaining to me and really funny to watch. Because you're like, you choose it. And they're like, oh, no, I don't have choice. I'm like, well, choices got you here. Yes, but I don't have choice to change this. I'm like, yeah, but you had the choice to create it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be showing up if you weren't choosing it. Like that thing with being late. If I wasn't choosing it, I wouldn't be being late. Guess what's happening now? I'm not being late. I mean, except for today, but that was, who knows what that was. I will handle things differently in the future. So that doesn't happen now too. I will make that choice. But we have so much ease possible when we get out of our own way, when we recognize that we have choice.
And if we stopped avoiding ease at all costs at every turn, how many more choices would be on our menu?
Yeah, and the mantra of Access is all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And what that means is all of life, the good, the bad, and the ugly are going to happen because shit happens to everybody. There's no perfect conscious place you're going to get to where shit doesn't happen because people around you will create shit even if you're not. So you want it to occur with ease rather than having your target to be only good things happen and then I can be happy. No, you want your target to be, I'm so present with everything. And I realize I have choice in every situation and everything that's presenting itself. And I'm so present that I realize even if this looks like crap from everybody else's point of view, that there's a possibility in here somewhere, and the crap won't destroy me, even if it's just crap. Meaning all of life, the good, the bad, and the ugly comes with ease and joy and glory is exuberant expression and abundance. And if you want to start yourself on a path toward choice and can't think of anything else, or if you can think of anything else, say, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory 10 times in the morning and 10 times in the evening. And you will notice things will start to show up differently, which is what all of this conversation is about. Having your life show up differently, but also having you be able to create it showing up differently.
Thank you, Dane. And thank you for being so generous with what all you put out there. I know my life changed. You're my brother, and my life changed from your YouTube videos on the Tour of Consciousness. If you guys haven't gone to drdanehere.com and go sign up for the Tour of Consciousness, because years ago, I didn't believe any of this stuff he's saying either. So if you're one of those people,
my sister.
I was like, you go choose all that stuff. I'm going to choose this over here. I'll watch and learn. And that was like over a decade. But, and then when I wanted to choose, I was like not willing to get vulnerable with the fact that I wanted things to change. So I didn't come and tell my brother that I wanted to change something. I just started watching his YouTube videos and then applying that tool that week. And one of the things before we go, I'd love to share this little story about that. The way I watched a video of yours about what would it take for this to change. That was an access tool, a question. And I was sitting in my backyard, no money, miserable. And we had stopped watering our lawn in the backyard. It was all dead. And I was sitting there watching this on my laptop. And I said, okay, all right, I'll play with this tool. I said, what would it take for this to change? And what would it take for my phone to be quiet? And I said that about my backyard, the dead grass, the dead flowers, everything. What would it take? 2 days later, not 4, 2 days later, my neighbor came over and said, hey, we bought extra grass and plants for our lawn and stuff. Would you like any? We'll pay our guy to come over and put it down for you. And that was it. That was like, that's possible? Are you serious? And so if you're there right now going, I don't know, and a lot of you are on YouTube, so yay, start watching the Tour of Consciousness. It's a great place to start and to start to play with these tools. Dane is so generous, gives away so much because he truly desires people to have these tools. And then Bars Foundation, and there's a foundation coming up, and a Bars class, and a foundation you can do online in the end of April. And then Dane has COP in the beginning of May. So all on the menu for you too.
All on the menu. And ESB next week after next weekend.
ESB.
If you've already had foundation or taken online or whatever. I love the story of you doing that. It's such, so you know that thing about, one of the things I ask people to do is write down the miracles they've created, like something that showed up like that. I mean, there you go. Now, here's the other part that I want people to get, and maybe they can, because you brought this up and looking to you, okay? If you had that, okay, you said, what would it take to change this, right? What showed up was a miracle. What's a miracle? Something you don't know how to explain, okay? If a miracle showed up, do you know why?
Because I asked?
Because you asked and you were willing to receive miracles. I know that won't make sense to people. And this is why I also talk about the access classes, because somebody who hasn't been, somebody who still has that foundation of limitation. And oh, by the way, what Bars does right before that is open up receiving. Okay. And receiving is required in order to have money, because there's no such thing as a money problem. There's only a problem in what you're willing to receive. But anyway, but the reason I say that is because when I talk about the willingness to receive miracles, somebody who's done a lot of access is like, yep. Somebody who hasn't is like, I know miracles should exist, but it's still not a reality for me. What all of these things are about is, and what this conversation today is about having it as a reality for us. like our waking, living, breathing reality that nobody can take away, and that we will no longer give away to validate other people's realities and limitations. And could you just for a moment ponder what it would be like to live as that? And it is within our grasp. It is within our choice. If you had met me 20 years ago, when I was, what, 9? Is that what I was? Yeah. If you, I'm kidding. I was 10. If you had met me 20 years ago, like, I mean, you would have seen a guy who was so depressed, who also still had these rare moments of happiness, but it was so rare, who wanted so, like, I was willing to do anything to change my life. I was doing every book and every seminar I could afford. Actually, I couldn't afford it. I was putting it on my credit cards because I didn't have the money to pay for it. I was like, I was doing all the work, and still I was just hitting my fucking head against a wall. And that's when I gave up, because I was like, universe, you got 6 months. Either my life changes or I'm out of here, because I am tired of doing the work and getting no friggin' result and not having change. And then I friggin' had my bars run. And it was like somebody had opened up this universe of grateful, joyful, peaceful possibilities. And I was like, if it feels this way to be alive, I'm in. And I avoided taking foundation class for a while after that. And it wasn't until I finally looked and I asked, basically, what will my life be like if I do this? And if I don't? And I went, can't believe I've been avoiding this. What I've been avoiding is having my life take off on a trajectory that I can't control. So anywhere any of you are doing whatever to avoid your life taking off on a trajectory of possibilities that you can't control, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Whoa, Sarah, thank you for being with me here today. I am so grateful, so grateful.
Thank you for the invitation that you be for me and all these people on, and so grateful for you too.
And I know we're ending, but I just have to say one more thing about that choice that you made in your backyard. Is you used to go out there with your cup of coffee, you have 4 kids and a business and a husband, and used to go out there a half an hour early, thinking you didn't have the time, until I said, look, take a half an hour for you. And I'd been saying that for years, and you finally were like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But it was when you finally got to that point where you were willing to have a difference. And I just
make a different choice.
Yeah.
Make a different choice than waking up every day being like, oh, I got to get 4 kids out the door to school. I got to do this. I don't have time for me. I don't have time to create a different reality, big brother, you know? And then I made a different choice, and that changed that changed everything. Literally everything. Like literally everything.
Literally everything. And so I just want to point that out to everybody, because there's some cool stuff that we've talked about today, and just realize that it is choice. You have far more capacity to choose. It's not what you thought it was. It's just like, what would it take to change this? And also recognize that you'll know when it's time for you. Now may not be. And yet it may also be. And what if that's not wrong? And what if you're not wrong? And with that, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for contributing your energy. We adore you guys, and can't wait to see you soon somewhere, somehow, either in person or online in some way. And what if you truly knowing that you have choice, truly knowing that you're a gift, are the gift, the change, and the possibility this world requires? You are, my beautiful friends. Thanks for being. See you soon. Bye-bye. Don't have too much fun while we're gone, while we're not spying on you.